Hello, welcome to the James Cooley Show. It's your life. I'm your host, Dr. James J.C. Cooley. I am so excited about today's show. Michelle will be joining us later, but I tell you, we got this absolutely fantastic guest that's going to talk to us about franchise, buying a franchise. What does it take? Is it worth it? A lot of things that goes into those things, and some of the benefits, and probably some of the headaches. I mean, so it goes both hands in hand. But if you ever want to buy your own franchise, own your own business, we got a show for you today. And you know what? I'm so excited. And whichever platform that you're watching us on, all you have to do is go to the comments, ask my guest, who I'm getting ready to introduce, any questions that you might have. I promise you, we'll get you an answer. We'll get you an answer. I'll tell you. Let's get directly to this guest, Danielle Conklin. Danielle went to college at Arizona State University and studied theater. She also took online courses from UC Davis, UC Davis, studying wine, uh, vicular cultures, and also help form wine, barrier wine. So I know it's a lot of wine lovers out there. In 2005, her father's dentist bought the rights to Massage Emmy from San Diego County. By the time she had two young children, I think they were 1 and 3. She's gonna tell us about those in a minute. In the late 2006, her father asked her to become his business partner in two of the Emmys, Massage Emmys locations. I tell you, and also, and they grew those to 7, but she also is part of a lot of other different business organizations. And I'm gonna let her, tell y'all who she is and explain some of the things that she is doing, especially when it comes to healthcare. I'm a fitness guru myself, so I'm excited about this. Without any further ado, let's bring on Danielle. Danielle, how are you doing today?
I'm excellent, and thank you so much for having me.
Wow, I've been looking forward to this all week, so, because I know we have a lot of aspiring folks out there that would love to know what it takes to buy a franchise, and also, is there is it worth it? Is everything that's smooth selling? How they go about maintaining business, getting business profits, and overhead, taking care of all those things. So, first of all, can you tell our viewers and our listeners where you grew up and what makes Danielle click?
Well, I've been around in different states. I was born actually in Parma, which is outside of Cleveland. I was only there for a few years, and then my most of my adolescence was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And at the age of 13, my parents decided they didn't like winters anymore. So we moved to Scottsdale, Arizona, where I finished my high school and I went to college. At the age of 24, I moved up to Seattle, Washington, where I lived until I was 38. And now I've been in San Diego for 16 years.
Wow. So, Danielle, who were some of your role models?
Well,
Uh,
that's an easy one. I was actually thinking about this earlier, and I didn't have a traditional father in the sense of my dad never had a 9 to 5. My dad was truly the first person that I met in my life that was an entrepreneur. He made him, and I think when you have someone that you're very close to, like I am with my parents, um, you get some of their traits, and he knew that I had a very outgoing personality. I'm very driven. I'm also an extremely positive person, so he really just kind of honed those skills inside of me. So I would have to say by far and large, my dad. He definitely made the biggest impact in my life.
wow. And were there any other role models that you had that you contribute to the successes that you are living and enjoying today?
Absolutely. So before I got into franchising, I worked for a distributorship up in Seattle, Washington called Young's Market. And I had a manager named Jerry Parks. And back in that time, females really didn't they didn't really have roles in the wine world. It was very much a good old boys society. And because I had the wine background with Bear Winery, they brought me on specifically for their fine wine division. So a lot that I do, and a lot how I manage people, I do credit Jerry Parks for.
So, Danielle, um, did you always, watching your father, did you always want to be an entrepreneur yourself, or it just something that just fell on you?
I would have to say I've always been in a form of a managerial position. Um, I started with restaurants, which most people do when they go to college. And I quickly worked my way up to management for a restaurant chain called Kachina Kachina, which was Seattle based. And then from there, I went to the distributor world where I was a sales rep for about a year until I was promoted to a district manager. From a district manager, I was promoted to key account manager, which is like the Seattle ferry system, the Space Needle, the arenas. So I kind of always definitely was a go-getter.
Is that being an entrepreneur, what are some of the rewards and some of the challenges that one might have not knowing it, the business fully?
Well, especially in the franchise world, it's a unique platform because you are an entrepreneur, but you have to stay within the parameters of the franchise and what you are or are not allowed to do. So it's a great way for people who kind of the structure's there. It's already built out. Um, what what a franchisee brings to the table is the capital to get into a brand. But you also have guidance from your franchisor of things you're supposed to do in the way of your logo, how your store looks, the uniforms that we wear, the workouts that we do. So all that is really given to you. The playbook is there. You just need to follow that playbook because that playbook works. It's typically when people get the playbook and they're like, you know what? I'm going to try and save some money here, or I don't want to do this. That's when the brand can get hurt because people aren't following that playbook. But the nice part about that playbook is you are your own boss. You're your own boss in the sense of this is your store, this is your baby. And the success on that store is really driven by who the person running the store is.
You just mentioned something about the franchise providing the funding or providing the overhead. Is if there are 7 or 8, say 100, 200 locations, are the rules the same that falls under the franchise that you all are under?
So typically in franchising, you are given a square footage. What is the perfect footprint? So in the sense of Home Fitness, it's 2,000 square feet. My store in San Marcos is actually 2,500 square feet because I am the area representative for Home Fitness in San Diego. So I do have a conference room built into that location. So you are given certain guidelines of what square footage you're looking for, how big your workout floor is, how many red light therapy rooms you have, how many restrooms you have, what your front desk looks like, what your retail space should look like, what your lighting and your sound should look like, and how it should come across. So things like that, those are in that playbook that are given to you. So when you go to build out, and I've been very fortunate. I use the same architect. I use the same general contractor. I use the same attorney. I use the same real estate agent. So I've worked with these people in and out for over a decade. And what corporate gives you is that they give you the playbook. They say, okay, this is what your lighting should look like. This is what the overall visual of the store should be. So you are given those tools from the franchisor.
So I want to go back a little bit because you said your father contacted you one day, you picking up the kids. We talked about that in the green room. And when he offered you that opportunity, were you excited, nervous?
Well, okay, so I had a 1 and a 3-year-old, and I always loved massage. So in every concept I've been with, it's something, I am the demographic. So when I came down to check out the Carlsbad location, which has since been relocated into Oceanside, I sat in the lobby and I looked around and I said, how hard can this be? It's massage. If I only had $1 for every time I said that, because I really had no idea what I was getting into. I never had that many employees before. I never had to work with the state because the therapists and the estheticians are licensed to the state. So there was a learning curve I had to overcome very quickly. So I was nervous, but when I got to San Diego, San Marcos had just opened like 2 days prior. So I really had to just dive in and learn as much as I could, as quickly as I could, in all different areas of labor laws, of California employment, of back then we were controlled by the health department. So licensing has changed so much for massage therapy in the last 15 years. So there was a lot I had to learn very quickly. The hours I worked in the beginning were well over 70 hours a week, and I had a 1 and a 3-year-old.
It seemed like a lot of work that goes into that. So how do most franchise go about hiring their people, recruiting their people, the right people that's going to help make the business successful?
I was very fortunate because I'd come from a background where I'd hired people before in restaurants and in the wine world, that you really look for qualities in a person that when you have that many personalities all working on the same team, they have to get along. Because if you have one that ruffles everybody's feathers, it makes the culture in the location very unstable. As the owner, the franchisee, you have to lead by example. So I've always told my staff, the only thing you can control day in and day out of your life is your attitude. So if you choose to be grumpy gills, then guess what? Everyone around you is going to be grumpy. So I always made it a point, no matter what was going on in my personal life, no matter if the business was struggling or not, I always was just 100% energy. I made it a point to ask, my staff about things in their life, their kids, all different kinds of things, because that engagement is very important, because it controls your turnover when it comes to staff. And turnover is probably one of the deadliest things that can happen to any business, not just franchising, but any business. Because when you have repetitive turnover, your consumers, your guests, your members, they keep seeing new people and they wonder, why do I never see the same face when I come in here? So they don't think the business is stable. So it's very important that you have a nucleus and a culture, and you do things as a team building. You praise people. You, if they need guidance, you say, hey, it's very important that you're here on time because, your client is waiting for you. So you have to be able to hold everybody to the exact same standard. And if you don't, then people feel that you're not being fair as an employer. So if you lay the groundwork down in the very beginning of these are my expectations, here's what I'm asking from you as an employee, here's what I'm going to bring to the table as the employer. And if you can follow that, then you can control your turnover.
I'll tell you what, you're absolutely right, because leadership comes from top down and bottom up as well. Everybody input in the organization, I believe, is so important. We have to take a station break. But
right.
Wherever you're watching this, if you want to be part of the conversation, all you have to do is just go to the comments. Ask this young lady any question that you might have. I promise you we'll get you an answer. It's your life, and we'll see you shortly after the break.
I never wanna leave. Yeah, I'm right where I wanna be. We got something you and me, and I can't get rid of this feeling. Just like a magnet, we're just like a magnet. The things we have can't be taken for granted. Now I know that it has always been you. I can't help it, I'm so drawn to you. Just like a magnet, we're just like a magnet. The things we have can't be taken for granted. Now I know that it has always been you. I can't help it, I'm so drawn to you. Hey, I'm so drawn to you. I'm so drawn to you. Yeah.
Really get a chance to know who you are. And once you know who you are, you truly know who you are, love who you are. Love who you are. You're a masterpiece. Love who you are. Love who you were born to be. Love me some me. That's what I'm talking about. When you leave high school, you gotta know today or tomorrow, hopefully today, what your plans are. Hopefully, there is no bad decision unless there is no plan. Create, collaborate, commit with confidence. Commit with what? Commit with what? And everything that you do.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and wow, I tell you, a lesson learned during that first segment, especially when it comes to leadership, and when it comes to lead, you have to lead by example, like what Danielle said. You have to lead by example. Your people have to know that you believe in them. They have to know that you trust them. They got to know that you care for them, and that's what maintaining great employees and building your brand, building your company, instilling hope, instilling confidence, courage, hope, belief, most importantly, faith. But most importantly, again, another portion of most importantly is having the right attitude. Having the right attitude. Danielle, I want to pick it up from there. You was explaining the right attitude. Can you go a little bit deeper into that as a franchise owner, what is having the right attitude, and why is that so important to maintain that even when things don't always go as planned?
Your staff looks at you for guidance. Your staff comes to you, and sometimes you have to problem solve. You might not have the right answer at that moment in time. But if your staff sees you constantly making negative comments about either the business, their life, if they're bringing their personal life into the franchise, um, when your staff sees that, you present yourself as unstable. Um, no matter what was going wrong at any given day, and when in my case at one time I had 10 units open, so all I did was put out fires, and I constantly had to have a smile on my face and a positive attitude, because if they see you crack, then they're gonna crack. But if they're like, wow, look at how Donnie just handled that, I mean, that was amazing, then they kind of look at you, go, well, she doesn't let the turkeys get her down, she soars with the eagles. And you're leading by example of that positive attitude.
Wow. So before we get into the question that Bucky just asked you, what makes owning a franchise a good decision? And how would you know if you chose the right decision?
Okay, so that's a great question. In every concept I've been with, it is a concept that if I wasn't the owner, I would frequent that franchise. I was a huge believer in massage therapy. I in European Wax Center and an amazing lash studio, the confidence that we gave women, you could just see it on them. With Own Fitness, I finally kind of went a different direction out of the beauty industry, and I went into fitness, which is a huge passion of mine. And when you can impact people's lives in a positive way, you're not just earning an income, but you are affecting your community in a positive way. One of the beautiful things about Own Fitness that I've learned over the last couple of months is I have met some incredible people who they can't do high impact workouts anymore because of an injury. I met a woman who her 160-pound dog went after another dog, and she was connected to the leash and couldn't let go. And the dog dragged her, and she ended up breaking her back. She can't do a traditional workout. So we're making an impact, and we're giving her back her health. We're giving her back her mobility. So when you hear stories like that and you meet people like that, it makes it all worth it.
So what are the first steps? Just like Bucky asking a question, what are the first steps one might want to consider and take?
I would recommend, there's different franchise shows. There's the multi-unit franchise show that's every year in Las Vegas. You really kind of have to decide what you're looking for. Like, some people gravitate to food. Some people gravitate to beauty and wellness. Some people gravitate to fitness. It has to, whatever you're going to do has to align with who you are. And you have to decide of what kind of investment you want to make, because franchising can be all over the board. It can be an investment of 100,000. It could be an investment of $1 million. It all depends on how big the store is, what you're offering, what your build out is going to be. So it really depends on what aligns with you. What at the end of the day is gonna make you say, you know what, I made the right choice. I'm a huge believer in health and wellness. So for me, this was an opportunity to really dive into something that I'm very passionate about, which that is a key. You have to be passionate about the brand you are a part of. Because when you're in a brand, you are part of a very large family. My family goes all the way to New Jersey. They're not blood relatives, but they're franchise relatives.
So you mentioned something about $100,000, $1 million. So that's just the purchase, I believe. What does someone have to have in reserves when they are opening a franchise? Because if you go in, I believe, with just the basic layout and you ain't got no money to build it up or do other things. So what are your thoughts on it?
I would say you definitely need a 6-month reserve. You have to have enough that in case things do go south, that you're not going to put your well-being on the line, which means your house, your bank account. So you want to have, I would say, a minimum of a 6-month reserve that you're not going to be stressed out about the financial side of it. That's very important, because the last thing you want to have happen is that you put your whole life savings into your first store, and now your pro forma, what you thought you were going to do, what you thought your income was going to be, isn't there. And you need to have at least a 6-month backing that you are going to be okay for that 6 months, because you can and you can't. You can have another job and do this. I mean, I cross multiple brands, but typically my father used to be my business partner. I have 2 other business partners now, and they both come from extensive franchise backing. They're both European Wax Center, and my partner Cole was Massage Envy. So you have to be able to afford the lifestyle you're accustomed to, especially if you have children, that you're not going to put yourself in jeopardy financially.
Okay, so Bucky had asked a question, but I wanted to get those few in before we went back to his question. Bucky said, I'm thinking about an existing well-known piece of franchise, just one location. Do you think that's a good idea?
Okay, there's a couple things that go into buying an existing location. First of all, the location itself. Is it a good location? And anytime you go to a franchising expo, they're going to tell you location, location, location. That is by far the most important. Second of all, what kind of shopping center is it in? Who are your anchors? Who are your neighbors? Is there enough parking in that shopping center? What are the reviews on that business? How long has that business been established? What are the current pitfalls that person has with that business, and why are they selling it? Is it because other things have happened, or that they run the length of that term with that franchisor? So you want to frequent it. You want to see from a different bird's eye view of what that business is doing. Is it busy? Are there peak times? Are there slow times? So if you're looking to buy into an existing unit, the first thing you have to do is location. And then the second is, why is that location for sale? And those are probably 2 of the most important things. Did that answer that?
I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley from the United States of America, and I am here to just say, first of all, I'm so happy and honored to be on it, to be in the Coffee Book 2023, Unified Brain Z, and the other organizations. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this collection. Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I tell you, I don't know about you, but I am really enjoying this education that Danielle is giving all of us, and we got a lot more to come. But before we start with this, I like to thank my team, my marketing team, my optimization team, for doing such a wonderful job. We just went over 22,000 subscribers. That's 1,000 subscribers more than what we had last week. So, hey, I just want to thank everybody for watching the show, subscribing to the show, pass it on to everybody, because we want this to go completely around the world, and only you can make that happen. Yeah. So thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Solji. Thank everybody. So I want to get back to this, because you gave such an education, Danielle, on what is some of the things that it requires, that you recommend 6 months in reserves, and etc. So when a person is thinking about finances to open up their business or start a franchise, what are some of the common ways to accumulate the funds to be able to purchase and be able to maintain? I.e., do they need to take all the money out, equity out their home? Do they need to take out business loans? Do they, I don't know, keep the kids from going to school? Can you talk about that a little bit?
There's different avenues for financing. I would say the majority, you go the SBA route, which is the small business loan. One of the things that has been very up and coming is borrowing against your 401k. Some people do pull equity out of their house. That is a little more, I would say, risky than the other options. Some people go into partnerships. That has to be a very clear line of, in a partnership of I always refer to it, because I have two partners, of each of us stays in our lane. My partner Cole, I don't like anything he does, because everything he does has to do with math. I am much more the operations person and the salesperson. But a lot of information, if you go to a franchise show, they do have people there specifically to talk about funding and to talk about financing. So if you're about to step into the franchise world, first of all, you have to, I'm not going to say start small. Most people do. I've never been involved with a brand that I also was not the area representative. So I came into franchising a very different route than most people. Most people come in, they buy one unit. Now, some franchise concepts, they will require you to buy a certain amount of units, like a 3-pack or something like that. So franchise shows can tell you a lot because they have everybody there in one room. But the one thing I would also say is you have to look at who the franchisor is. What kind of history do they have? Is this their first time being a franchisor? Do they have franchise history? That's very important because that was really what sold me on OM, was who created OM. I've known them from Massage Envy. I've known them from European Wax Center. So they had the experience. And that's very important when it comes to franchising, is that the I like to call it the mothership, the franchisor, knows what they're doing. You don't want a franchisee to know more than the franchisor.
So speaking of that, should a franchisee expect the franchise or whoever is overhead of all of that, what type of support would a franchisee be looking for from corporate to make sure that they do not fail, that they have all the necessary resources, they have the training, they have so many other things that might go with opening up and starting a franchise? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's different franchise models. So in my franchise history, there's always been an AR, an area representative. So you have multiple layers. So first, when you go to Discovery Day and you meet the team, the corporate team, they'll tell you what they're going to do for you. And that's very important because you do not want to be left out on an island. You want it to be that if you have an issue, you can get a hold of corporate and say, hey, look I'm running into this or that. And they have all the training materials. They have the spec book. They should be able to guide you, because the last thing you want is to buy into a brand and then they kind of do this to you and you're kind of, on an island. You want to make sure that the franchisor is engaged with you. Now in an AR model, which I've always been in, you have a two-layered system. So you have the AR support and you have corporate support. So the best way is I'm your local go-to. So with OM, we purchased the entire region of San Diego, which is 16 licenses. It is my job to sell those licenses. And it's also my job to help those franchisees with their business. I help them with the training. So corporate trains me, I train them. And you want to make sure that if you are in this model where you have an area representative, that your area representative has a history in franchising, that they can guide you when need be. Because the last thing you ever want is an unhappy franchisee, because then they can be very vocal and they can also be very brand damaging. So you want to make sure all your franchisees are very happy and well trained.
How much control does a franchise owner, have over their own establishment and still have to comply with the corporate establishment?
The franchisee actually has a lot of control because it is their business. And in order to have a very productive business, you have to have great employees. So that is really where that franchise owner is going to come in. Now, if the franchise owner is not really good with employees in the sense of, it's just not their forte, then you want to have somebody on your team who is good at that, who is good at solving problems and, making sure your clients are happy. I've seen it both ways. There is a misconception that when you get into the franchise world, it's a turnkey. That couldn't be further from the truth. This is your business. This is your investment. You need to be there. You need to be the leader of the whole thing. So corporate gives you the guidelines. But best way to say it is you're in a sandbox. You have your sandbox, right? You can do a lot in that sandbox. You just can't color outside of the sandbox. You can't offer something that isn't an approved offering through corporate. And if you follow the playbook, which is very important, the chances of your success are much greater than if you decide you're going to try and reinvent the wheel, because that's already been done. So don't even think of that, because it's human nature to think, you know what? I bet you if we did this, it would be less expensive and we'd get higher results. That's not necessarily true. It's tried and true. It's been proven. You just have to follow along. But you as an owner, you do have a lot of control over your own business.
So you just hit on something. And I know it's a model that corporate have. And you mentioned something about if you want to step out that little model, you probably are doing something. So wrong. But in the case where you as a franchise owner and there's other locations around the same as yours, and if you want to add products that is not in the other locations that you're doing, how hard is it to get corporate to approve something like that?
Okay. if you, and the terminology we're going to use here is called default. Okay. You default on your, it's called an FDD. It's a franchise disclosure document. If you default, which one of the most important things you can do is understand what is required of you as a franchisee. But if you default, now there are hard defaults and there are soft defaults. A soft default you can cure. You're told you can't do that anymore. You need to stop that immediately. Then you've cured the problem. Now, if it's a hard default, then you put your agreement with corporate in jeopardy, and they can take your license back. That's why it's very important that when you get into franchising, you know that there's a playbook and that you're to follow that playbook. Going outside that playbook, coloring outside the lines, that can get you to lose your investment that you've worked so hard for.
Wow. There's so many different rules and regulations, I believe, that a person has to understand if they're going to go into being a franchise owner. Danielle, we got to take a station break, but we're going to come back. We're going to come back. And we got a lot more. If you want to be part of the conversation, all you have to do is just go to whichever platform you're watching or something. Ask Danielle any question. Danielle, tell them, they ask you a question, you're going to make sure they get the answers.
I am going to do my 100% best to answer that question.
So it's your life. We'll see you shortly after the break.
Fight again. And if you want my opinion, I'll let it take me away. Only relief is the 4 on the floor and the crowd that goes, oh, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up, oh, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up.
Noah Dingley here, producer of The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. And the new audio version of James' book, Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet, is a must-have. James shares his true life story of struggle and success in America. It's both a cautionary tale and a roadmap to achieving the American dream. Get the new audio version of Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet by James Cooley on Amazon.com or wherever audiobooks are sold.
Welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's Your Life. I tell you, I'm just, amazed at learning all of these great things about being a franchise owner, because I constantly thought about this many, many years ago. Sometimes I think about it now, uh, but I did not know what would all go into this. When I'm getting a clear understanding of some other things that are required that you must know in order to consider doing something like this. So Danielle, I want to pick it up with how much initial time does it take to establish a franchise and to make sure that you're building it the right way and understand the rules and regulations from corporate? Say a new person decide to start a franchise. What type of initial time do a person have to dedicate, like 70, 80, 90 hours a week? I don't know.
So when I started, virtually, I had twins. I got two stores at the same time, and I didn't really know what it would have been like to be a single unit franchisee, because I came in with two. So you kind of have to look at it this way: if you are a single unit and this is your first rodeo in franchising, so to say, you bought yourself a job. And I want to be very clear on that, because you will put a lot in, because you can only have one grand opening. You can only have one starting of a unit. You can't keep doing it over and over again, because the public doesn't jive well with the public. So the more you are present in the beginning, the payoff and the reward will be much greater. And there's a lot of variables that go into owning a franchise. One of the things that I loved, and I still love, is when you are part of a franchise, you look at other people around the country and what they do. Now, in every concept I've been with, I've been the first to market. Massage Envy, European Wax Center, Amazing Lash Studio, and now Om Fitness. You are first to market. So the education that you give out is very vital. But you make no mistake, if you are getting into franchise, you bought yourself a job. The more you put in the beginning, the greater reward in the end.
Wow. So Danielle, you had mentioned doing our research and about, can you explain to our audience how can owning a franchise be used as a charitable platform for the good of others, the communities, etc.?
So there's two different levels. You have your store level, which is your community. So where we are, Om Fitness in San Marcos, California, you do a lot with the schools around you. Now, my kids both went, my son went half public, half private. And then my daughter, she goes to the local high school. So you do a lot with the high schools. A lot of, and I'm going to give you another great example of something that we've done with European Wax Center. We had to switch out all of our retail. We went to a whole new branding, and I had all this retail product. So I found a woman's nonprofit that was to help women get back on their feet, whether it was they were homeless, they were, down on their luck, whatever. I gave all this product to help them get back out into the workforce. But then you have it on a regional level. So once you have so many stores open, in our case, in Ohm, because we call ourselves Ohmies. When you're an Ohmie and we have all 16 locations open, then we will do things on a regional level. So we will do things like work with Arthritis Foundation, Make-A-Wish, Susan G. Komen. So then you're aligning yourself more with things that are on a regional level and not so much you're bringing it down to that store level. In a community, you do a lot for the community. And really the biggest one is schools.
Wow. So Lauren has a question. Good things. She says she heard a lot of good things about Omi level. How can I get involved or get more information? She asked you how can she get involved, get more information?
There's a couple ways. You can go to the website, www.ohmfitness.com. You can get a hold of me, which would be my name, Danielle.Conklin @ohmfitness.com. Or you can easily just call me at 206-409-3202, and we can get that information to you.
Dang, we got the better part of 3 minutes, so I want to try to get through a lot of this. Or during the royalty fees that a franchise owners must pay?
Great question. So in that FDD, that franchise disclosure document, it will list what royalties or what fees exist. So typically you buy the license. Then that license has and it can vary. A license could be 10,000, a license could be 50,000. It all depends on what is set forth by the franchisor. But also in that FDD, it's going to explain what the royalties are. The bigger the brand, you're probably going to expect bigger royalties. And the royalties cover different things. You have your marketing fund, which is very important because that's your national advertisement. You are also required to spend so much on marketing as your studio. But it varies. Some charge, it can go all over the board. But now some franchisees, they'll say, okay, we're going to start at this. But once we get to so many units, now we're going to move to this. Because once you become a national brand, which Fitness is, then you have different marketing. You have national marketing, which I pay towards, but I don't control. And then I have local marketing, which from when I started in 2007 to now is night and day. We used to do a lot of print. Now everything is, primarily online and social, and you really have to manage that social presence.
Wow. Danielle, how can people get in touch with you if they wanted, just like I know you gave out the information a second ago, but want to close it out again, and so people can reach out and get in touch with you. And by the way, I love this interview, and we have to do this again.
Oh, I'd love to.
So tell our viewers and our listeners how can they get in touch with you.
They can either go to www.ohmfitness.com. They can reach out to me personally, which is my first and last name. So it's Danielle.Conklin @ohmfitness.com. Or they can call me at 206-409-3202.
Danielle, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on the James Cooley Show. It's Your Life. I like to thank Joyce. She's one of our favorites. She always hook us up with absolutely fantastic guests. I like to thank Dr. Michelle Cooley for putting together another absolutely fantastic show. Most importantly, I'd like to thank our viewers and our listeners, for taking the time to tune into the James Cooley Show. It's Your Life, Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Remember always to dream big, think big, and be big at everything you do. It's your life. We'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place.